And then this is where I thought it was over. Miami hits the first shot of the fourth quarter to go up 80-68.
Mm-hmm.
DeRozan turns it over, just bad pass, just lazy. Jovic jumps the lane, goes down, lays it up. Now it's 82-68.
Christie call a timeout. What, 30 seconds into the into
32
the fourth?
seconds.
Yeah,
32 seconds into the fourth. Calls a timeout. DeRozan smokes a layup. I guess he had it blocked.
okay.
Might have been blocked. Kel'el Ware was credited with a block. Tyler Hero turns it over. Monk misses a three. Keegan, offensive board. Keegan was awesome last night. Misses a little mid-range jumper. Duncan Robinson comes down, hits a three. It's 85-68. It's like, all right, this is over.
Yep.
Like this is kind of where the wheels come off. And with 8 minutes left, Kel'el Ware hit a couple of free throws to push the lead back to 17 with 8 minutes and 7 seconds left.
Mm.
And I'm just like, this wasn't. I wasn't like, oh man, this is bad. This is so. It was, oh, okay. This turned into a kind of plodding, scrappy game. That's the game the Heat want to play. They're last in the league in pace for a reason. And the Kings just kind of ran out of gas here on the second night of a back-to-back. That's what happens in the NBA. I said it yesterday. Not a loss wouldn't be the end of the world.
No.
So I was like, okay.
But you kind of felt like it's been an emotional week.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually there was going to come a bubble that burst,
Mm-hmm.
and that emotion, would kind of like, not that they're going to give in and just go back to who they were,
Mm-hmm.
but that maybe there would be some regression, especially once you kind of got into a battle where it's like, okay, well, we had a good run.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back out here on Friday, although it won't be great. It'll be against a spectacular Boston Celtics team.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to figure it out again. But for today, it felt like almost like a deflated, okay, it's been a long week. And all of it's catching up to everybody. And that's what it felt like.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it wasn't.
Yeah, DeRozan makes a layup. Heat miss a three. Keon hits a three. Heat turnover. Keon hits a three. Now it's a 9-point game with 6:50 to go, and it's like,
what just happened?
Oh, there's a ball game here. Like, that's not in the modern NBA. 9 with 6:50 left is might as well be tied. That's not a deficit at all.
No.
And then they just kept fighting. And I think the part that jumps out the most to me, forgetting the coaching aspect of this for a moment, just the Kings roster. I think the thing that jumps out the most to me is if we were to try and pick an MVP of last night's game, I think you're going to get 5 different answers.
I totally think you're right.
Easy argument to make for Domas. He was awesome all night.
Yep.
Hit the huge 3 late. Did a really nice job defensively on Bam Adebayo. There's an argument to be made for Keon, who was effective on both ends of the floor. I just mentioned the 2 big threes he hit, but was wreaking havoc defensively. DeMar DeRozan closes the game. Like, I thought Keegan Murray maybe played his best game of the year.
Keegan was spectacular. Like, he had
doing the little things.
He had 3 threes. Well, okay, so he came out in the third quarter and then boom, boom, hit 2 threes. And you're like, that kept the Kings in the game, because at that point they had already started to let go.
Yep.
You could feel like their offense was stuck in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
He hits 2 threes. Then he comes back later and hits another 3. I think all 14 of his points came in the second half, but it wasn't that. It was the rebounding that was like, holy cow, he's healthy. That's what it looked like. He was leaping over people to grab incredible offensive rebounds, and you're watching sort of a guy try to figure out how he fits into the world and coming up with it. Like, hey, look at that. Like, you figured it out. Like, just go out there and play. Go out there and be effective. Go out there and get a block. Go out there and take a charge. Like, do the little things. And I think it's 2 games in a row that we've seen Keegan just figure out how to be impactful without scoring 15, 18, 20 points.
And that's I think why his year had been disappointing for me, is because we'd seen last year and a couple of stretches this year, but not consistently enough, where he would do that. Where Kevin Huerter did this a lot last year too, where, all right, shots not falling, but how else can you be impactful? Can you get a rebound? Can you make a pass? Can you get an extra possession with an offensive board? Can you be a pest defensively? And Keegan hadn't really been doing that. It was almost like his shot not falling was just impacting his game as a whole.
Oh yeah.
And whatever switch he flipped the last couple of nights was particularly meaningful, I thought. And just like I said, you look at the box score and you're not going to go, wow, Keegan Murray was awesome last night. But I felt every time the Kings missed late, it felt like Keegan was there getting a rebound, extending a possession, and doing a really nice job defensively too. Tyler Hero, I think, had 17 points in the first half and finished with 26.
Oh yeah. Put the clamps between him and Keon Ellis. Yeah, and I think that's one of the keys, right? If you're going to try to dig out of this hole, you need to get defensive stops. And this is why I like at the beginning of the season, I kept saying it. Start Keon. Like, you need 2 defenders in the starting unit, especially if you're going to have 3 great offensive players, but a couple of them with limitations defensively. You have got to put guys on the court that can hit threes and that can play defense. And I think what we're seeing right now with Keon Ellis, I mean, and just, I'm going to remind people the same thing I said yesterday. Keon Ellis is playing a ton of minutes, and it's because they're missing a starter. Like, there is going to come a point where Keon Ellis goes back to the bench, and that they're going to have to figure out how to get him in the game. And whether it's 18 minutes or it's 28 minutes, whatever it is, it's not going to be as simple as just, hey, we have no one else. You got to keep playing.
Sure.
And that's where we're at right now, as far as like the last 3 games, whether it was Keegan or now De'Aaron Fox. 4 games now started.
I think the thing with Keon and his playing time recently was, or is, we're just getting to see the effect he can have on both ends of the court, but particularly defensively. And you hear this all the time in basketball, like defense leads to offense. I feel like they get a lot of easy buckets because of what Keon Ellis is doing defensively. And I think what his recent run of heavy minutes, I think the thing that has jumped out from that is he should have been the nights where he's playing like 9 minutes or 10 minutes or getting a DNP, that is making less and less sense now. Because it's just clear, like, dude, this, maybe he makes a mistake here and there, but it's just the impact that he has way outweighs whatever errors he's going to make in that process.
No, I totally agree. And I know there's a lot of people out there that love Keon Ellis, and we're saying the whole time, why is Keon Ellis not playing more? I'm just going to be super clear here. The reason Mike Brown was fired was not because he didn't play Keon Ellis. Just straight up.
Yeah, no, that was not.
No, it wasn't even part of the equation. It is for a lot of fans. How could they not play him? But it's not any part of any equation behind the scenes that he was refusing to play Keon Ellis.
Yeah.
Like, this team is like, I still don't think they value Keon in the way that they should. I mean, when you're an undrafted free agent and you're on a league minimum deal and you were a 2-way player for 1.5 years, and now you're on a like super minimum deal, like, there's still people that just don't value that the right way.
Sure.
And the problem is, you should, because for every Domantas Sabonis you have at $40 million, you have to have a Keon Ellis at $2 million.
Right. An impactful player at $2 million, not just a $2 million player.
A rotational player. He's a rotational NBA player on any team in the league right now. That's it. Like
facts.
Yeah. I mean, this dude would be out there getting rotational minutes for the Boston Celtics. Like, he's a great defender, and he's a spectacular 3-point shooter. Like, you stumbled into your own little version of Bruce Bowen. You just didn't really know you did it. And so, like, I personally believe Keon needs to play a ton, but what is a ton? And like, how do you fit him in? And how do you fit him in with Devin Carter? And the fact is, like, Devin Carter just showed up, and like, instantly Keon ratcheted up his game and said, you ain't taking my minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro. You ain't taking my minutes. I don't care who you are or where you were drafted. You're just not taking them. Yeah. And it reminds me a little bit of the way that Isaiah Thomas came in as the 60th pick in the draft and said, yeah, I don't care who Jimmer is. Like, those are my minutes, and I'm taking them, and I'm going to be the starter, and you're all going to watch me do incredible things, and then some moronic GM is not going to pay me. That's the way it kind of went. But like, and not going to pay me the 3-year $21 million that someone else will.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's what it kind of reminds you of, though. You're watching a player who, it doesn't matter where you're drafted. It doesn't matter. Like, the Kings have thrown away second-round picks, and even when they select second-round picks, it's not usually, like, most of them don't stick. It's these other guys that they keep finding, the undrafted guys that, look, they're fighting, they're clawing, they're self-made men. They're doing everything in their power to get into the league.
Mm-hmm.
And the second that Keon Ellis lets off the gas, he could be out of the league, and he knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always in the back of his head because of the way he got to the league.
Yeah.
And so I'm digging the Keon minutes. And, again, there's a joy, there's an energy that he plays with that's totally contagious. And it's contagious in the same way that Malik Monk has always been contagious. It's just one of them's on offense and one of them's on defense.
Yeah. And one of the things I loved last night, Damian Barley, D'Lo and Casey coming up here at noon, tweeted last night, Golden One center's back. And I think you talk about that energy being contagious. One of the things I love about Sacramento and basketball fans here is that players like Keon do get appreciated so much.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows what Keon's doing defensively. There's not a person in that building that doesn't recognize what he does on that end of the floor specifically. And it just, when Keon gets a steal, when he got that steal last night, and then was it against Hero or Jaquez, where he just took the ball out of his hands and then spiked it off of him before he went out of bounds?
Oh, yeah, it was Jaquez.
Like, that's unbelievable. Fires the crowd up the same way it would have if he had hit a three.
Well, that, and Jaquez is, I think, 3 inches taller and outweighs him probably by 15, 20 pounds.
Yeah, Jaquez
just
a dog.
Barreling his way to the basket, and he just took the ball from him and then threw it out.
See, Jaquez finished with a triple-double and 5 steals last night.
Yeah, and he missed
dog,
2 free throws that were the biggest misses of all time.
Tough for our guy, Jaime. Salute to the Athletics, by the way, who were in the building last night. And when James and I went over to the Sawyer where the A's had some media availability. It was Lawrence Butler and Brent Rooker, who we'll talk about here in a bit.
JJ Blade,
JP Sears, and then Mark Kotze, the manager. And they were saying, like, oh, yeah, we're going to go to the Kings game tonight. And I'm like, we didn't say this. I was like, uh-oh. Like, this might be kind of a slog.
Yeah.
It might be a tough one.
It was, yeah, that's what the concern was.
And then they go down 17, and I'm like, man, this sucks for these guys. Like, it's their first time really in Sacramento. They get to go to a game. They get to sit courtside. None of them had ever sat courtside at a game before. I think JP Sears said he'd never been to an NBA game before.
Yeah, it was interesting. We had these conversations with all of them.
Yeah.
And it was, all of them had like different perspectives. And they're all from like weird, obscure places.
It's baseball, baby.
Baseball is very different. That, like, I don't.
We had Memphis for Rooker.
Yeah.
South Carolina for Sears.
Pittsburgh. Well, no, that was
Pittsburgh-ish. That's that side of the state for Blade, and Atlanta for Butler.
Yeah.
And then Kotze is a Southern California guy. I know he went to Fullerton. I don't know if he's from Southern California.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess he's a Southern California guy.
But yeah, and they all, and different. Lawrence Butler, huge basketball fan, big Hawks guy. Whereas a guy like JP Sears, like, never really been to a game. So they got to experience an NBA game courtside and a double overtime game, but to see what Sacramento's like, to see what fans are like.
Oh yeah,
and that was one of the things that just like sat in the back of my mind as the Kings are going down 17. Like, man, this sucks. This is the game they get. This is the game they go to. Of all the games here lately, this is the one they have to see. But man, what a show! What a show for those guys.
Yeah, at halftime they brought out jerseys for all of them. Yeah. Like
Kotze put his on
with their own name on the back and their number and everything else, and it was like this cool moment. And then they're sitting courtside, and you're like, "Holy cow! They're getting to watch something crazy." And they were totally in it. Yeah. They were like, "Oh, this is
standing up.
This is wild. Are you kidding me?" And they're right next to Vivek, and they're like, "This is nuts. What is happening?"
Yeah. Rooker getting after it with the lounge.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think most of them were getting after it from the lounge. Yeah, like why not? Like you're here. They're putting you up in a 5-star hotel right next door.
Oh yeah.
Someone will lead you through the tunnel and back up to your room. Like
when we were leaving, you left a little before I did. And when we were leaving, we were going to go downstairs, and it was me, somebody from the A's, and a family, like a couple. They were getting on the elevator, and we were going down to the lobby, and Sears is standing there. JP Sears, starting pitcher. He's standing there, And he goes to get on the elevator and he goes, oh, this is going down. No, I got to go up. Like, yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I got in the elevator
somewhere nice up there.
And Nikola Jovic was in the elevator, and it was me and Nikola Jovic like going down to the lobby.
Did you talk to him?
Yeah, I said, "Hey, how are you, man?" I said, "I'm media here in Sacramento, and I'll see you tonight at tonight's game." He's like, "Oh, cool. You just cover the Kings," with a very thick, like I think Serbian accent.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. I've covered the Kings for a long time, and we got off the elevator, and he didn't really know where to go. I'm like, oh, there goes Kevin Love. Just follow him. He's like, oh, got it.
Oh, the guy that knows where he's going.
See ya.
It's really funny. I didn't realize at the Sawyer there how many people just hang out there.
I didn't either. I had never been in there for like in a pregame situation.
Yeah, I've been there after games a couple of times.
Yeah,
but
Punch Bowl or whatever.
Yeah, never been in there, and it's just people just hanging out.
Yeah, there's
players,
like a lot.
Coaches, fans.
Fans are trying to get autographs.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, I think that's only if you're staying at the hotel or something.
That makes sense.
I don't think that
roll in there.
They're just going to let everybody hang out in the lobby. They do also, I think, if you stay there, you have access to their free bikes. You can just grab the bikes in the lobby and pedal.
What?
There was a little placard on the bike said, go enjoy like Sacramento. Like the Sacramento
I did not see
is
that.
a great bike town. Like, go check it out. Yeah.
How do we stay there?
We should go to a concert because it's really pricey. But we should stay there and then we just
separate rooms.
Yeah,
obviously.
Of course. Yeah, we'll
I snore.
Hang out with the wives.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll grab bikes. We'll bike around Sacramento. It'll be great. It was really funny when we walked up to because that's a nice ass hotel.
Oh yeah.
And when we walked up to the front desk, you're in like a hoodie and a flannel, and I'm in like a hoodie with a bomber jacket and a hat on. Just no bags. Just walk up to the front desk. The scorn on the lady's face at the front desk when we approached.
Who are these yahoos?
I registered that in my head, dude. Because no, there's people who say usually NBA players, NBA coaches.
Yep.
Not people cruising in a hoodie and a Sac State hat. She's like, "Can I help you?"
Yeah.
we were know where the maple room is.
We were
like,
sort of
upstairs. She was very nice.
Sort of shamed. Yeah. We were sort of shamed. Well, that's when she realized we were media, and she's like, "Oh."
Well, I bet a bunch of people go in there just, "Hey, can I go to this room or what?" Like, I'm sure people walk in there who aren't supposed to be there.
Well, I mean, they do have like you can take the elevator up to Punch Bowl, or they have Echo and Rig right there in the front.
Well, I believe.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of things that are hanging out there, like a lot of nice ones.
Really cool spot.
Yeah, like to build a hotel right next to the arena where you literally can look out.
There's a tunnel to the arena, right?
There's a tunnel that goes underneath straight to the arena. There also is, I think it's a 4th floor pool that like overlooks a gigantic pool that overlooks the front of the arena.
That's cool.
So yeah, you can just sit there and hang out, like especially if you had like concert tickets and just go hang out, or like in the middle of summer.
You gotta worry about driving anywhere.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's a good spot. We're not here doing good PR work for the Kings. At least we didn't expect to, but yeah,
I guess we probably shouldn't. That's fine. He's James. I'm Kyle. Jiffy Lube is the sponsor. Make sure to get to Jiffy Lube today. Find the location nearest you at jiffylube.com. One last thing real quick before we step aside. What did you think of Malik Monk last night? Because I thought he was awesome against Golden State, like as good as he could be. But he finished with 26 points and 12 assists or whatever it was. He was just outstanding. Last night felt to me, especially early on, like he went, this is going to be the Malik Monk show. I need to take this game over. I need to be the guy tonight. I thought he forced some bad shots. I thought he was a little bit of a ball stopper on offense. It changed throughout the game, and he started deferring a little more. But I was a little bit concerned early in that game that Malik was going to shoot him out of it.
Yeah, so I'm going to say this. Malik is in his, 8th year as an NBA player. Mm-hmm. And every year that he's been in the league has been different. Every year. Like his first 4 years in the league were just a waste of time in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And he was almost out of the league. And he'll be the first to tell you that he thought, he was super close to out of the league. His final year there, he looked way better than he had in the past. But he got an opportunity with the Lakers. Again, he was playing not even like second fiddle. He's like the backup bass player to LeBron and AD and that team.
An afterthought on that team.
He is, but then he started to build some momentum. He started to get starter minutes in the second half of the season. He started 37 games. He was playing 28 minutes. Then you come to Sacramento and you're the sixth man. You're supposed to bring energy and you're supposed to be this bubbly, fun guy. There's a big difference between a bubbly, fun guy and a dude who has to play defense on every possession and is averaging 34 minutes a game as a starter. Again, last year, Malik Monk averaged 26 minutes. The year before, when he should have won sixth man of the year, he averaged 22.3 minutes. There's just a big difference between going out there and like literally like being the party guy. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Right? You bring the fun.
Yeah.
Now, hey man, you're a grinder now.
Yeah.
Like and you get worn down to a nub very quickly, especially going out there and playing, back to backs and playing 40 something minutes in a game. And it's something he has to learn and he has to adapt to, but also something I think it's great. I think he's built for this. He's an incredible talent. One of the most electric players I've ever covered in Sacramento. And there's just something about him that, you don't want to dampen that because you need to have those moments where Malik is Malik. But at the same time, you're going to deal with it sometimes where like the fuel tank is empty and he's going to still try and fight and do the things that he does. But he just can't be as effective because he's not used to playing all of these minutes.
He went 8 of 25 from the field last night and 1 of 9 from 3.
Yeah.
But 6 of 7 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, couple of steals. I thought he made a couple of good defensive plays late in the game. It was the two things that jumped out to me were, one, that Doug just stuck with him. Didn't pull him out. I don't even know if he talked to him. And Doug said in one of his press conferences, I think it was after the Grizzlies game, like, that's just, you're going to take the good with the bad because the good is going to be great. And that was what I kind of saw last night. And I think the adjustment late in the game too, where he started being more that facilitator, and that's where I think Malik Monk's at his best.
Oh, totally.
Because he's got the first step and the quickness to kind of just get to the rim whenever he wants. You can hit a shot from anywhere. But when that shot's not falling, can you turn into that distributor and just that kind of initiator of the offense? And watching him figure that out as that game went on last night was really, really encouraging for me. In Malik Monk's growth into the role he's taken on.
Yeah, and even like Kyle, there's that moment where he got all the way to the basket late in the game. It was at the first overtime, or was it late in the fourth? He got all the way to like 6 feet from and all he had to do was explode and go put the ball in the basket. And instead, he tried to do a fall away, and they swatted him. And then the Kings had to foul, and that's when Jaime Jaquez misses a 2 free throws.
Yeah, that was at the end of the second overtime?
The first overtime.
First overtime.
And either way, you're like, oh, man, they just lost this game. And you look, and, Malik plays 48 minutes and 31 seconds. Like, he just ran out of gas. He didn't have the lift, and, like, you got it, right?
Yeah.
You understood. But
if he had gone, and Katie pointed this out on the broadcast, I thought it was a great point. If he drives left there and just goes up, he's scoring.
It's over.
But like you said, he had to stop to gather, and that gave Highsmith the half step he needed.
Yeah, he would just did not have his legs anymore. And you talk about the 1 of 9. The previous 2 games, 5 of 8 from 3 and 6 of 12 from 3.
Yeah,
like he's been electric. Like he's been so
really
good as a starter.
Good. Yep.
And like his splits are as a starter versus a role guy, a bench player. Like he's figuring it out. But you're gonna have some moments.
Yep.
These 3 days off right here are so valuable to Malik Monk.
For sure.
Yeah.
No doubt. All right. We'll have plenty more Kings coming up for you. Caller, I see you on the line, 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. That's the Elk Grove Kia talk line. We'll hit caller. We'll hit you when we get back. Doug Christie's got a tough decision coming up, man. Really, really tough. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about 49ers locker room cleanout day. And the A's spending spree continues. We'll get to all of that here by noon. That's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube. This is ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader.
NBA guru Zach, your predictions. The Kings, just like the upper management, would love that more than anything. Like Martina, Vivek, they would love for this to be the case. I would love for this to be the case for Doug to be the head coach next year. But like it's early. Like let's give the guy an opportunity to succeed, and let's acknowledge the fact that he took over a team that had already quit once before, and so like you're hoping that he's able to capture their imagination and keep their attention the entire season. Let's see. Jim, not a diss, but would you say Spoelstra outcoached DC X's and O's wise the zone defense? I'm just gonna like. I get the question, but last time
Spo's gonna outcoach most teams on most nights.
Last time I checked, Eric Spoelstra has been a head coach for 17 seasons. 17 seasons, and he's won a couple of titles. He's won 767 games, but he's coached 1,311 games. If Eric Spoelstra didn't outcoach Doug Christie, then it was because he fell and hit his head on the way to the gym. Like the dude has so much experience and high level experience, and that's not even playoffs. If we tack in playoffs, just so you know, he's right. Last night was his 1500th game, like exactly. So, like, look, Spoelstra had some things up his sleeves. He was hiding the fact that he doesn't have Jimmy Butler. Doug Christie was also hiding the fact that he didn't have De'Aaron Fox. And like at a certain point, like as much as Spoelstra probably X's and O's beat Doug won with his ability to capture the room. So I get what you're saying, and I'm not trying to like, run you over. I would just say like there's definitely like you would expect Spoelstra to outcoach. I mean, he outcoaches everybody. I consider Spoelstra the best coach in the NBA. And again, Eric Spoelstra, if he wants to do it, will go down as all-time winningest coach in the NBA history. I'm pretty sure of it. He's 54, and he's already 17 years in with the same organization.
Also gone to three finals, 2.
How many rings does he have? NBA champion, Eastern Conference champion. He's been to 5, 6. He's been to the final 6 times.
But the last couple have been with like
the 8th seed.
Yeah. Not great rosters.
No.
He's a heck of a coach, man.
Yeah, he is. And he's an absolutely tremendous coach.
I do think the Kings' inability to solve a zone is definitely a small amount concerning.
Well, yeah. But I don't think
that's a Doug Christie problem.
You didn't have your zone breaker. Your zone breaker is very specific. It's De'Aaron Fox.
Yep.
I'm going to say, though, it didn't just come down to coaching, not coaching. Player execution, but it also came down to players listening to their coach and fighting. Like, so I'm not taking the coaching thing out of it.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
That guy right there is James Ham. This guy right here is Kyle Madsen. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. If you'd like to join the program, we'd love to hear from you. We'll get out to the Elk Grove Kia talk line here in just a second. But the Chatty House, if you'd like to join us there, is youtube.com/ESPN1320 and twitch.tv/ESPN1320. Sal in the Chatty House asks the most pertinent question of the day. Did you ask Doug if he paid for the hat?
Oh, no. We didn't ask Doug. He did get asked about the hat. And Doug had mentioned something about he has not had time to shave. Like he doesn't get to sleep at this point.
Sure.
He's exhausted, and so like the smooth,
Yeah, he's got a little lettuce up top.
Yeah. So
okay.
I
think the same thing.
I think that was part of it.
He wears hats every day anyway.
He also said, I'm a hat guy, and he is a hat guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, you've seen my Pabst Blue Ribbon hat, right?
Yeah.
They had a Rainier hat like that because Rainier used to have a beer. I don't know if they still do, which like I got Doug one years ago because he went to like Mount Rainier High.
Okay.
So he's from Seattle. Yeah.
Right.
So he's a hat guy.
Right. Same. Yeah. Next, I need to. When are they back home? Next week?
Yeah. No, it's almost like 10 days. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, because they
play Friday.
They don't play until Friday, but then they have a 3-game road trip. It's Boston.
Oh, it's 3
Chicago.
games. That's right. I thought it was 2. They're not back till January 16th.
And then they're only there for 2 games, and then they're gone for 6 or 7. Yeah.
So I'm supposed to go to the game on January 16th, but without a credential.
Oh.
I'm just going with some friends. Maybe I'll try and get out to that January 19th game. So I can ask him.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
You're gonna ask him about the hat?
I could just text him, I guess.
Yeah.
See if he responds. He's probably busy. Did you pay for your hat? 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. That is the Elk Grove Kia talk line. Don, you are on the Insiders. What's up?
Guys, it's Big E with you.
Big E, what's up, bro?
Hey, what's going on with this? My bad. The game was crazy last night. I was honestly ready to turn it off, but I was watching it at work. I could not believe just like the comeback. I was like, I didn't think they would do it, but I just love the team's resilience. I think we're building an identity now, right now with Doug Christie. And I just love that Keon's not getting DNPs and playing in scrub time anymore. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thanks, Biggie. Appreciate it. You know what's funny about the whole identity thing? That's been kind of one of the talking points. Doug said last night they're in the testing phases of what their identity is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Is their identity right now not what it just was in the second half of last season?
Maybe. I think their identity could also be like the 2022-23 Kings. Like that.
I feel like they're a little better defensively.
Oh no, I think they are better defensively.
Which is what the end of last year felt like until Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk got hurt.
Yeah, I just feel like, no, because I felt like last season what was missing was a resiliency. Like I did not feel like they were the same resilient team they were the year before. And that's what I always came back to. You know, they lost the first 4 games of the season and the 22-23 season. And then they never lost more than 3 again, 3 in a row. And they only did that twice the entire season until you got all the way to the end of the year where they lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
They just, every time that you thought that they were going to let off the gas, they didn't. And every time you thought a game was over, it wasn't. And it was like this really, really cool thing to watch. I think if anything, their identity last year was just missed opportunities. Like all of the bad losses, like that team should have won 50 without any question. I mean, they should have been in the playoffs without any question. But whether it was free throw shooting that cost them like 3 or 4, I think the Kings have had 5 wins, or it was just like the inexplicable losses to, you know, the Pistons and Charlotte and Wizards and Blazers. Like, just like, hey, you cannot do that. If you think you're a playoff team, you can't do that, especially a lot of those games at home. And so, like, I felt like last year, the resiliency was totally gone. They were really good and almost like talent carried them through, but there wasn't this other ingredient that they had that they brought every night. And all of a sudden you're seeing something like last night, or, you know, again, it's been almost every game under Doug, except for the blowout against Golden State. But the other games have all been tight. And the difference between them right now and the difference between them, you know, 2 weeks ago is that, you know, they were 3-11 in games decided by 5 points or less. all of a sudden, what are they 4-0 in games decided by or something like that?
That's
under Doug.
That's one of the things I'm really intrigued to see moving forward. Is how much of this I think a lot of it is Doug. We talked about this yesterday, but the approach he has is just different, and it's more effective than what Mike Brown was doing. Got a hiccup, sorry. But I also think that part of the 5-game winning streak is they're just flat out playing better, playing harder. Just that's the biggest piece of the pie. But I think some of this too is we would discuss this when talking trade stuff during the midst of their 6-game losing streak prior to this. Their metrics weren't bad. All the metrics said they should have been way better than a team that was 6 under 500.
Oh yeah.
And so there's part of me that wonders, oh, is this just the ascension to the mean now? Where they might not have for the end of the Hawks game when De'Aaron Fox got fouled by Dyson Daniels and they didn't call it. I didn't think that was a foul on Bam Adebayo on Keon at the end of the first overtime last night. I thought Keon leaned into it. They've not called that anymore, but that's, you're going to have bad calls not go your way. You're going to have bad calls go your way. And it's like, oh, that's that evening out. Tyler Hero, maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe he hits that shot where with the Malik contest at the end of that regulation. The end of regulation and the overtimes really got me. But I guess it was at the end of regulation. Maybe that shot goes down 3 weeks ago. But that's the thing I'm intrigued to find out is, does this continue here over the next month? And it's just, oh, this is just the Kings now? Or is there going to be kind of a flattening off because they're just rising back to where, frankly, they should have been?
I know it sounds really strange, but I also think like just straight up the basketball gods are shining on them. Like, and that it's because when you play hard and you don't give in and you keep fighting the whole time and you lay it all out there, good things usually happen. When you don't do that, when you start to play like you don't care, or you start to, again, like, I mean, this team, they lost 122-95 to the Indiana Pacers on their home floor. 122-95.
Yikes.
Like, and we're talking about December 22nd. Everyone's excited. Kids got tickets for Christmas. And you go out there and you show that kind of performance in front of your home crowd. And that's not the only one. They lost to Lakers by 13. The Denver loss is tough, 129-130. But this entire season feels like it's been about near misses. But if you're not playing hard or you're just not putting it all out there, then a lot of times you deserve to lose.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what it came down to. It started to feel like they were just cashing it in, just like going through the motions a little bit, and they're not now. And so that's when, like, a loose ball here or a rebound that you didn't think you were going to get here. That, again, you mentioned the play where Keon strips the ball from Jaime Jaquez, and he should have been out of bounds. Instead, he leaps up in the air and spikes it off Jaime Jaquez, who's laying out of bounds. Like, there's these little moments that are because you're 100% engaged in what's happening. You're all in. And I know that's like Mike Brown's call letter from 2 years ago, all in. But it's very true. Like, if you're like 100% bought in and you're so into the game that you can't even like think straight, and it takes you 2 hours after the game before the adrenaline comes down, that's what Doug is pushing for. And that's when teams are nearly impossible to stop, when they just, like, they don't have quit in them.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, I think the basketball gods did not look fondly upon the Kings for the first 30 games of the season. There were too many moments where they let up as a group, not one individual, as a group. You just saw it. Like, they weren't in it 100%. They weren't getting 50-50 balls or the extra rebound.
Yeah. I know the basketball gods thing is just kind of like a sports thing, right? The football gods, you don't want to answer the vote. You want to do X, Y, and Z because you don't want to. But really, what you're saying is they're trying.
Yes,
like, it's effort. It's not the basketball gods didn't say, hey, you lost tonight because you didn't try to get that offensive rebound. Like, no, you lost because you didn't get the offensive rebound. Like that was it. It was there to get, and you didn't get. You lost because you threw a lazy pass.
Yep.
Or you lost because you went down by 17 with 8 minutes left and went, okay, not our night, and checked out. And they didn't do that last night. And lo and behold, oh, look, it leads to victories.
I think it's interesting, too, because the way that Doug has been able to sort of capture the imagination of this team is very different. Like, when we're listening to him in pregame, like, you're worried that it's going to come across as, like, corny or something. But, like, it's very authentic. And, like, I've known Doug for a long time, so I'm used to some of his mannerisms when he's up there. But, like, you know, one of his first games, he started quoting Bob Marley. And everyone's like, was that just Bob Marley that he just quoted? And then last night it was Deepak Chopra.
Sure.
And then not only that, but like there's these other things that he says that just like literally you're sitting there. In pregame he said, I want to teach you guys how to play the game, not how to run a play. And you're like, everyone in the room's like, huh, well, that's interesting. And I think
profoundly simple.
It is profoundly simple, but also like it makes sense. And that's what Doug's always been about. Like, hey, I just want to get there and coach and be and teach them the finer nuances, the little things that Pete Carrill taught him, the little things that Herb Williams taught him when he was sitting on the Knicks bench, little things that he learned from Isaiah Thomas as a coach or Pat Riley. You know, these little things that when you're playing, the things that he learned from playing against Kobe Bryant. Again and again and again. Like there's so many things that he wants to like impart on these guys that aren't grand scheme. They're not like, hey, we're running this style of offense or this style of defense. They're just like standing man to man. I'm going to teach you like 8 different things that you didn't think about when you're making a back cut or when you're, you know, like I remember him trying to show Ben McLemore when he was doing TV, trying to show Ben McLemore like, hey man, you understand that you keep sprinting through the lane, like, and to reset the offense. You're sprinting through the lane and going to the corner. You know, if you just stop one time and turn around, someone might hit you with the ball and you'd have a dunk.
Yeah.
Like, but you don't do that. All you do is you run the same speed every time to the corner. Yeah. I need you to change your speed. I need you to change the direction every once in a while. Because all you're doing is becoming predictable.
Yeah.
And it's those little things that he's always tried to impart on players that I think you're seeing play out. You're seeing it play out with Domas, who, again, you mentioned how good he was against Bam Adebayo last night defensively. Like, Domas is not going to be an elite shot blocker. He doesn't have, like, super long arms.
It's not his skill set.
No, it's not. He doesn't have a massive vertical leap, and he doesn't have long arms. And so he has to learn how to play defense in a different way. If you're not watching how much better he is defensively over the last 2 years, you're not paying attention.
He's gotten significantly better.
And a lot of that is because him and Doug work on everything during the offseason. And it's these little conversations that are sort of bleeding into his play. And if, you know, again, look at Sabonis's 3-point shot. Look at like all of the things that he's doing better this year than he has
more
any
confidently.
Other year. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's what it is. A lot of it is just that. And that's not to say that other coaches don't do the same thing. But there's a big difference between being able to have those one-on-one conversations and then like being a head coach, which is what Doug has had, which is what Mike had to be, where he's overseeing a group of people doing this. Now, like, how does it transition? How does it translate? How does it translate like 20 games in or 30 or 40 or heaven forbid, like Eric Spoelstra, 1,311 games in, whatever. Like that's where you're going to have to wait and see like what kind of impact can Doug have long term. Can he be the franchise's Eric Spoelstra, where he's here for another, 15 years, or even like Rick Adelman was 8 years with the team? You hope so, but like it's early, and right now he's got the players' attention, and the team's playing better, and that usually helps you get more attention from the team because the results are there.
Yep.
And so we'll have to wait and see though when it gets tough, and like it's going to get tough on Friday.
Yeah.
Like, and Doug talked about it last night. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if we're going to win or lose against Boston, but I will tell you that when we walk out of that game, I want my team to know that they controlled their energy, their effort, the things that they can control. They went in and did it, and that's a great team. And if we somehow beat them, it's because we showed more heart. We did what we had to do. But if we lose that game, as long as we play the way that we're supposed to play,
right,
we'll be okay.
Right, you can live with the result.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insiders. We are sponsored by Jiffy Lube, and we're hanging out with you till noon here on ESPN 1320 Sacramento Sports Leader. You mentioned I want to get to the 49ers, and I want to get to some A's stuff as well as their spending spree continues. But before we do that, you mentioned Bam Adebayo there. I'm ready to put Bam Adebayo on Fraud Watch. I've never and this
Triple J. You're gonna Triple J him?
Yeah, no. Triple J is not on Fraud Watch. He is a fraud.
Okay.
I'm out on Jaren Jackson Jr. And this comes from a person who was that 2018? Was Jaren Jackson draft?
Yeah.
2018? I was like, I think he might be the best player in the draft. I loved Jaren Jackson. I'm out. Fully out. Not a fan. Bam Adebayo just on Fraud Watch for now. Excellent defender. Really awesome defender. Changes the game for Miami on that end of the floor. On the other hand, the amount of times last night, and part of this is Domas. His stat line last night, I'm not talking about his stat line. His stat line was due in part to what the Kings did defensively, what Domas did defensively. They did a really, really nice job on it. But the amount of times he had a lane and then would stop into a turnaround jumper that he left a foot short was insane. What did he do?
There was one play late where he had Sabonis. Sabonis kept making a mistake. He kept backing off of him.
Yes.
And then Bam started running at him. And I thought, okay, here he's just going to do it again and again and again until Domas is out of the game.
Yep.
He did it one time, picked up Domas's fourth foul.
Yep.
And then Domas went on to play like another 14 minutes with the overtimes.
Never did it again.
Maybe 17 minutes with the over. Never did. Every time he started running at him, then he would stop and pull up. And like he had some nice buckets.
He did. And that's why he's just on Fraud Watch, because you see it. You see like the skill set and the talent. It's like, man.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one play where Domas was way out, like above the free throw line. And Bam got in behind him and gets the ball in behind him. Like Domas is playing catch up.
Yeah.
It's like if you go to the rack, you might get a foul, like at the end one. You're at the very least getting a layup if Domas doesn't try and block the shot. Or contest the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then he stops and literally pivots and does like a 10-foot fall away.
Yeah. That
he missed. And I just, again, part of it was the defense the Kings were playing last night. I really do think Domas did a really nice job.
Yep.
But there were so many instances there were probably 5 plays where it's like, hey, do you know you're like a 6'10", 6'11" super athlete that should just be able to go up or through whoever's in front of you? What are you doing?
I think and then sort of
very, I don't want to kind of Dwight Howard-ish.
Yeah, interesting.
Where the offensive bag just isn't quite there.
Comparing him to Jaren Jackson Jr., I thought watching Jaren, just like, hey man, could you get in shape? You just look like you go hit biceps and triceps.
Paul Luca.
You go hit biceps and triceps, but have you ever done leg day? Do you work on your core at all?
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm like, oh, he looks like he's just dragging his lower half around. Oh man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
When Nehemias Queta got to the Kings, same thing. A big guy who didn't have the core strength to move his body the right way. I'm just like, man, you just every single time you touch the ball, you travel 6 times. I'm like, why are they not just blow the whistle every time until he cleans it up, or don't, because it's just was sloppy. With Bam, I don't feel that. And I am going to go here to the chat where I think Scooter said that it looks like he's lost his joy. He's playing without joy. And I totally get that, Scooter. I feel like you're right. And it's because of what's going on there. It's just totally a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I also agree with Tyler Jennings in the chat when he says Bam next to Sabonis would be nice. That ain't ever going to be able to happen. But, if you could get the Kentucky connection with Sabonis, Like, because all the like Monk and Fox and Bam all played a single year together in Kentucky. And then Calipari literally sat them all down as soon as the final game was over in the locker room and said, all right, you guys know you're not back next year, right? And they're like, well, I was thinking, no, I mean,
like,
you understand you're not back next year.
You're being replaced.
I've already replaced you, and you guys are all going to the show. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Great group of players.
I saw John Poles in the chatty house say like the Bam slander is great. It's not slander. I just didn't think I thought he could have been better last night.
Yeah.
And I just, that's all. I was very disappointed with the amount of times he settled for a 12-foot jumper or a little push shot or a runner in the lane.
I also think there's something like if I'm Bam Adebayo and Domantas Sabonis has beat me out for third team All-NBA like 2 years in a row, that you would just think that there would be that extra motivation. And these guys have had battles. Like they typically, like there's been multiple games where both of them had 3 fouls, like with 3 minutes left in the second quarter. And you're like, okay, well, there goes this battle. That was fun until it wasn't. Yeah. But I do think that they're like, he's a little lost in a bad situation.
He went 3 for 8 in the first half, 0 for 5 in the second half. And
from
then,
the field?
3 for 6 in the 2 overtimes. Yeah. Yeah, he finished 6 of 19 and 1 of 5 from 3.
Yeah.
12 boards, a couple assists, 4 steals, a block. Like, you see it. Like, this isn't Bam sucks.
Oh, no.
But I just...
Well, I mean...
I feel like he could... I don't know. I feel like he left himself a little short last night. That's all.
Well, yeah, and I also think he's not a franchise player. Like, Jimmy Butler has been the franchise player there. And maybe you thought that Bam would take this leap, but Bam hasn't taken that leap.
Yeah,
like as an all-around game.
He's awesome, but there's like another...
Yeah. He's really good, but he's really good in the way that Al Horford was really good. And maybe a little bit better, but like there's a way in which he's really good. He just hasn't hit that next step where you thought he might get to early in his career, especially when he became like this incredible passer, which he did not do at Kentucky at all. When they got him into the league, they're like, what in the world? How can this guy pass like this?
Yeah.
And that's a Kentucky thing. It's the same thing that DeMarcus Cousins, like they're like, DeMarcus Cousins can shoot threes. We'd never seen him anything but chained to the basket.
Yeah.
It's just like, what in the world? This is crazy. Yeah. Anyway.
Also, I like Khalil Ware.
Yeah, he's intriguing.
Yeah, he is.
Just,
I think he'd look nice on the bench here.
There's a lot of players out there that you just look at and you're like, man, I sure do wish the Kings had someone like that.
I think he'd look nice here. That's all.
Yeah.
I think he needs to play 25 minutes. I think he'd look okay here.
Yeah.
All right. It was locker cleanout day for the San Francisco 49ers yesterday. Some news coming out of that. We talked to some A's players yesterday, and the Kings have some roster decisions to make today, I believe.
Yeah.
According to James Ham of the Kings Beat. You can subscribe to kingsbeat.com. We'll talk about that as well in the second hour. He's James. I'm Kyle. Oh, plus your phone calls. The Elk Grove Kid Talk on 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. Let's try it again. He's James. I'm Kyle. Jiffy Lube's the sponsor, and we are the Insiders here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. Clear! Soren having a day? Ooh. The all-fraud team. I don't know that I'm putting Austin Reeves on the all-fraud team.
Especially the way he's torn up the Kings.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think Austin Reeves is fraudulent necessarily. I think Austin Reeves is a bigger deal because of the team he plays for. Nah, Tyrese Halliburton is not on the all-fraud team. No chance. Tyrese is not having a great year, but he's a very good player.
Oh.
Our promotion staff should reach out and let you know.
We'll ask about that though,
Yeah, for sure.
Tyler. There we go. Yeah, Scooter, we'll discuss this in a few.
Oh, yeah. Oop. The heck?
I will definitely check in with them.
How did I do this? Oh,
you,
there we go.
you get tangled?
Yeah. It was like underneath and around my keyboard. I have no idea how that even happened.
I like Nick Richards' retribution. But I just don't know that, like, Charlotte doesn't have a big reason to get rid of him.
Yeah, I like Nick Richards.
I think the Kings could use a player like that.
I thought Paul Reed would have been a great pickup.
Yeah, but they waived him just so he could re-sign there.
Yeah.
That was weird.
That was really strange.
Yeah.
He was a free agent this offseason, though, right?
Yeah.
Love to see it. Stingers up, baby. You know, so they got a 4-star guy who is at like Texas and Alabama.
Yeah, did they just get all their NIL money or what?
I have no idea.
Because it seems like
Whatever it is, it's working.
Around the league, people are like,
Stingers
"Hey,
up.
Zach Say got some cash. Come on down."
Yeah, I would. Robert Williams is really interesting because, like, I see the vision for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're guaranteeing me he's going to be healthy, then I'm in, like, just all the way. But his injury stuff is.
You know who I would take? I would take Isaiah Stewart. Although
beef stew, bro.
he is not having a good season at all.
That's fine.
Yeah. And
For my
okay,
Pistons.
maybe I wouldn't take him. 15, 15, 15, 15 next 4 years.
I could take him.
Ooh, that's tough.
I thought that was your stomach growling.
No, that was me going.
That was
"Ooh."
that was deeply concerning. Oh, hey, we're back.
Huh.
Hour number 2, that's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We're rocking with you until noon. Then we'll hand it off to D-Lo and KC. And they will take you up to 4 o'clock here on a Tuesday. It's January 7th. The Kings beat the Miami Heat last night. We'll continue digging into the Kings' 5-game winning streak. But yesterday was San Francisco 49ers locker room cleanout day. We got some news items from that, which we typically do. Number one, actually, this wasn't from cleanout day. This was broken by Nick Wagner of ESPN late last night.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the program. I wrote this story while watching the end of the Kings game, actually. Special teams coordinator Brian Schneider was fired. And I think the least surprising move?
I think the only surprising thing about this, it didn't happen in week 3.
Yeah,
not to be a jerk, but
well, from what
special teams was a mess from start to finish.
From what I understand, and again, this isn't reporting. From what I've gathered in piecing together pieces of information, public pieces of information, over the last couple of years, I just think Kyle Shanahan didn't want to deal with it in season.
Oh,
like special teams is so far on his back burner that he's like, yeah, that sucks, but I don't want to have to find somebody different right now.
That's irresponsible, though.
Or he thought there wasn't like there wouldn't be a better like it would get worse.
Oh, all right.
That's the other potential.
I don't think it could have gotten worse. I just got to be honest.
It was so bad, dude.
It was so bad. I did not think it could get worse, and it just kept getting worse. And then you kept going, why is he still there? It keeps getting worse.
So what's interesting, and David Lombardi of the San Francisco Standard brought this up last night, Brian Schneider's been like a successful special teams coordinator.
Mm.
So is it something the Niners are doing with their roster? Is it the players? Are they evaluating? Because they've made signings specifically for special teams.
Well, I mean, there's certainly the one guy that holds on every single play. Like, even when it's like
just a given.
Yeah, I mean, there's one guy, I don't even know his name. It like, there was one guy, like early in the season, was it Odom, who held on every...
George Odom, signed specifically to play special teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Been an all-pro as a special teamer.
Well, I don't know how, because every time like, how many 10-yard penalties did he get this year? And how many runbacks did he cost?
Not this year. He has been in the past.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm interested to see if they approach this like, because I think the 49ers have a problem here. And this is, again, one of my gripes with Kyle Shanahan is there's an edge to be gained in special teams.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's the phase of the game we talk about the very least, but Bill Belichick was obsessed with special teams and how to gain an edge on special teams. You watch college games, and it's a little easier in college because the players are a little bit less disciplined, and typically the guys on special teams aren't going to go to the NFL. But you watch college games, and it's like, man, there's a lot of creativity here, and a lot of teams doing interesting things to gain an edge. When you have Kyle Shanahan's approach, where it's like, don't care about special teams, just don't lose us the game.
Mm-hmm.
When your goal is to play to a tie, you're in that phase. Your margin for error is super slim because anything that goes wrong is now magnified because you're not trying to do anything to counteract it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I hope they approach it differently. I don't think he will, but
I mean, we joke around it all the time. You got to win all three phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams.
Yeah, it's one of my joking keys.
The Niners got their ass kicked on special teams. They have a horrible kicker that they wasted a high pick on.
Mm-hmm.
They made so many errors,
mm-hmm.
and it almost felt like forever that they didn't trust Cowing to do his job. And then all of a sudden, late in the year, you're like, oh, he does have skills as a special teams guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just started taking off, and it's like, okay, why did we have the Ronnie Bell experience? Not sure. Should have let this kid like return kicks and punts all season long.
Mm-hmm.
So like the self-inflicted wounds of this season, it's not one thing. The injuries hurt, the holdouts hurt. Like, there are too many things that they did, but it's also the little self-inflicted wounds, like missing field goals, like making mistakes, costing your team like massive amounts of field possession with gaffes on special teams. Just horrible.
Yeah. So Brian Schneider fired as the 49ers special teams coordinator. The Niners are going to need to hire a new one of those in the offseason. And they may need to make additional changes. Brian Griese, their quarterbacks coach, was tapped to be the Jets head coach, or at least to interview for that job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to keep an eye on. Brock Purdy also hinted yesterday. He danced around it when asked directly, but hinted yesterday that he would hold out.
Just because?
So here's two separate quotes. Again, our buddy Nick Wagner, friend of the program, tweeted out this quote: "I want to obviously get it done. If that's an opportunity to be able to get that done quick, that'd be great, just so we can get back for phase one. Phase one of the offseason." That implies that if there's no contract, he won't be in the building for phase one.
Yeah, phase one, his elbow still hurts. Yeah, that's what that sounds like.
Yeah. A little nerve
Phase
damage.
one, I still have a little tingly feeling.
But he later got asked if he didn't have a deal by OTAs or minicamp, would he be there? Just direct. And he said, "I'm not really sure as of now. But like I said before, I want to get back to work as soon as I can with the guys. So hopefully something would get done sooner rather than later." Oh. All of that points to me like if Brock Purdy doesn't have a contract by OTAs or by training camp, he's not showing up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you as an organization saw how this year went, saw how last year went with Nick Bosa, who didn't sign until the week the season started, was not in camp until the week the season started. Trent Williams, you didn't get your deal done until the week the season started. Brandon Ayuk, you didn't get your deal done until I think the week before the season started. Maybe 2 weeks before. Very, very late. Missed all of training camp and all of the preseason.
Yeah.
And you see how those seasons went for those guys.
Well, especially a quarterback.
And especially the quarterback.
I mean, you should be working with Ricky Pearsall the entire summer, and
immediately.
And Juwan Jennings, you need to those dudes are going to be your guys. You need to start working with them, especially if there's potential for no Debo.
Yeah, man.
I don't even think that's potential for no Debo. There's no Debo.
What message does that send? Every player yesterday who talked in the 49ers locker room mentioned how Brock Purdy and the growth he'd taken as a leader, and how maybe, the numbers weren't there, but he took huge strides as the guy in the huddle. And then if you back that up by not having him there throughout the entire offseason program into training camp, I get the negotiation is going to be tough. Get to the table every day until you figure it out. It's worth a couple extra $1 million annually to make sure he's in the building, because that just sends a terrible, terrible message. If you're coming off this horrendous year where everything went sideways, it went about as bad as it could have possibly gone. And this guy who has earned a contract extension, whether it's for $45 million or $50 million or $60 million, we'll see. But if you're just playing hardball again and going, yeah, no, he's not going to be here, we'll figure it out. Always do. But you don't.
Well, you know what that does, Kyle? It takes the onus off of the front office and the mistakes they've made in the last couple of years. It's saying, hey, it's not us, it's you. We didn't do anything wrong here. Players held out. What are we supposed to do? Right. No, you're supposed to get the contract done. You have months. 49ers won't play again until when? August? They're not playing again for
7 months.
7 months. Get the deal done now, so you have all of that time to develop and build and building block stuff.
And establish that whether you think Brock Purdy is good or bad, forget that for a second. The 49ers very clearly believe he's good. The 49ers very clearly want him to be their franchise quarterback. If that's the case, establish that. Get that thing done by free agency.
Don't make us have to listen to Kirk Cousins stuff.
Oh my God. Because you know it's coming.
You know it's coming.
Get it done by free agency. If you don't have it done by free agency, fine. Get it done by the draft. But wouldn't you want that big money deal done so you know the exact structure, so you know you have moves you got to make in free agency? You got decisions to make on George Kittle extensions and Kyle Juszczyk extensions. And what are you doing with Deebo Samuel? What are you doing with Javon Hargrave? You have all these decisions to make that are going to be made based almost entirely on what the structure of that deal looks like.
Yeah.
How are you not doing that yesterday?
It's a big one.
I'm not going to criticize them for not having it done yesterday. That was a bit. But by the draft, at minimum?
Oh, no. I want that thing done. I mean, you said they can start negotiating the day after.
Yeah, they literally Monday, yesterday.
Yeah. Why not?
So, and frankly, if you're getting it done by the draft, phase 1 of OTA starts mid-April. The draft is a couple weeks later.
That's crazy.
So you got to get it done. To me, the thing that makes the most sense, that makes way more sense than nitpicking over a couple million here and a couple million there. Pay the tax that comes with getting it done early, and have this thing established and ready to go by free agency.
Yep. Pretty simple.
Again, it's not my money. I'm not the one looking at the salary cap numbers. I don't know what their plan is for some of their veterans, but to me, if you're trying to establish this guy as your franchise quarterback, don't mess around with it. Don't leave. Because the other thing, forget the Kirk Cousins thing for a minute. If you let this thing bleed into July, now is he your franchise quarterback?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want him? You want him, but not really.
And can you find another one of those guys in the draft like you did last time?
Right. Probably not.
No, but I mean, that's what's going to start happening. You're going to start.
Well, they did it once.
They did it once.
You can do it again. So I get all the arguments and the discussions about what his contract, and we'll continue. We'll have discussions about what that contract should look like. Not necessarily today because we got a huge Kings win to talk about. But to me, if you're trying to send the message that this is your franchise quarterback, if you're trying to eliminate questions, Jimmy Garoppolo made 5 starts for the 49ers. He went 5-0. They made him the highest paid quarterback in the league at the time. To me, maybe you're not going to make him the highest paid quarterback in the league,
No,
maybe you're
trying to avoid that.
Yeah, which is fine. But
Yeah.
can you throw the Tua deal on the table off the rip? Be willing to go up to the Trevor Lawrence deal if you have to. It's 55 a year. And get it done, man.
Yeah,
You've known this is coming.
I don't want to see them play in this like we're hoping for 45 and he wants 60.
Oh,
and you're
God.
like, oh no, that's a gigantic, that's a huge gap.
Yeah,
in conversation. Yeah,
content wise would be phenomenal. But for the 49ers specifically, I don't think that's the route they should go as an organization. Couple more things here from 49ers locker room cleanout day, and then Doug Christie's got a really tough decision to make. And we'll talk about that as well as some of the roster decisions the Kings have to make as of today. Christian McCaffrey had some good news yesterday. Said that if the 49ers were playing this weekend, they're not, FYI, in case you missed it.
Yeah.
They stink. He said he would be playing this weekend. So his knee injury, certainly by OTAs, will be a thing of the past.
Okay.
And then he also said that his Achilles stuff has calmed down entirely. Calmed down 100%, I believe was the quote.
Okay.
Interested to see if that's still the case come April. I'm interested to see if that's still the case once he's working out, doing football stuff every day. But it's at least a good sign for now, I think.
You think?
Unless he's lying his ass off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did just like basically not play for an entire season. So, I mean, he should be fresh for next year.
A lot of time to let that Achilles injury calm down.
Yeah.
So if you're a Christian McCaffrey, if you have Christian McCaffrey and if you're in a like dynasty fantasy league, just hang on. Signs are pointing up. Or if you don't want to, you can send that. You can send I wrote about it at NinersWire.com. You can grab that article, send it to a trade partner and be like, hey, did you see this?
You see it?
And try and make a little deal. Last thing here. Charvarius Ward, who, again, if you missed it, had his 1-year-old daughter pass away during the season.
And didn't they have another baby right after?
Yes. They gave birth. His wife gave birth to a baby boy.
Yeah. Like 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Just what a whirlwind. I just
cannot fathom.
No.
The fact that he even came back and played football this year in a meaningless year is a remarkable testament to him as a person and his mental fortitude. But he said, the 49ers are probably not going to be able to afford Charvarius Ward in free agency.
Yeah.
They paid Diamador Lenore. They're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. We know they've got all these cap.
They've got a young quarterback.
And Renardo Green.
Yeah, and Renardo Green that they love.
Yeah, and Charvarius Ward, good player. He's going to get paid.
Yeah.
So that might have priced him out of the 49ers range anyway. But he mentioned yesterday that he left the door open, but basically said he doesn't want to come back to the 49ers because of the trauma in California. Flying into the San Jose airport, driving through Santa Clara, being around the team facility, because the most traumatic things he said, knock on wood, the worst thing that ever happened to me and will ever happen to me happened while I was here.
Yeah.
That is devastating.
I understand it.
Forget the football for a minute. Forget what he means on the field. This is not what this conversation is about. It is so sad that a person very publicly went through that. And I don't blame him one bit, man.
Well, and it's not just a person, it's a whole family.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, because the NFL, like basketball, I mean, like the little kids that are around the team all the time. I mean, we see little Rain and we see Domas's 2 little like cherub babies. They're the cutest.
Tiger and 11.
Yeah, they are the cutest little things ever. Like that's part of the atmosphere of a team. And when you see something like this going, and it wasn't just him, it was Trent Williams as well.
Yeah.
It's just really like, I don't blame him at all for just not wanting to be anywhere near. I don't blame him if he just says, hey, I've had enough and I need to just go be a family guy from here on out. Like, it's okay. It's okay to do that, to just walk away. I mean, he's been through a major trauma. Him and his whole entire family, just major trauma. And like the dynamics of not only losing one, but having one, just like I just can't even imagine.
I don't know that there's a bigger emotional roller coaster that you can be on.
No.
I just,
I don't think so.
I cannot especially hearing him talk yesterday. The clips are everywhere. I'm not going to play it here because it's a little bit long, but just him talking about what he's gone through since then and like the grieving process.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, it makes sense that you wouldn't. I go to a restaurant and have a bad experience and don't want to go back. I can't fathom what he's been through personally, what his wife has been through, what they've been through together. So, salute to Javarius Ward. Wherever he winds up, he has a fan here, and I believe he will have fans here for as long as he plays football and for the rest of his life. Salute to Javarius Ward, man. So,
yeah.
Anyways, that's James. I'm Kyle. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. We're the Insiders. We're hanging out with you until noon. If you want to hit the Elk Grove Kia talk line, please do. 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320 as we shift gears back to the Kings following their 123-118 win over the Miami Heat in double overtime last night. Real quick, before we get to the decision Doug Christie has ahead of him, which I do not envy, the Kings have to make some decisions on their roster today?
Yeah. Yeah. So January 10th is the day that NBA contracts are guaranteed, right? So we're looking at 3 days, right? But in order for a player to clear waivers by January 10th, they have to be waived by January 7th because there's a 48-hour waiver window, right? And so the Kings have to make decisions on whether they're going to keep all 15 of these guys on the roster or not. And they have 2 non-guaranteed contracts in Orlando Robinson and Doug McDermott. Okay. I think McDermott's at like $750,000 and Orlando's at $500,000 that they're guaranteed for the season. But this is a team that historically likes roster flexibility going into the trade deadline.
Sure.
Right.
February 6th.
Yeah. So you've got basically a month here. And if you can drop down to 14-man roster, it kind of clears everything up and it gives you this flexibility. If you have to make a 3-for-2 trade, you're sending out 2 players and you're taking back 3, right? And now you're going to have to waive somebody, but you already guaranteed their money. And now you just kind of squandered, whether it's like 1.5 million or 2 point whatever million. Like this is just a moment where you have to shore up your roster for right now.
And with tax thresholds and aprons and hard caps, that 1.5 million, 2 million could be a lot.
Could be tremendous. So I haven't heard anything yet. I would not be surprised if they made at least one cut today. And like the Jay Crowder, they signed him to a rest of the season deal at like 1.6, 1.7 million.
So that's fully guaranteed.
It's fully guaranteed, but they can waive him if they needed to at a different junction. This is just a moment where you have guys who don't have fully guaranteed money. And, again, a guy like Doug McDermott, years of service, we're talking about like $3.3, $3.4 million. Of that, only like 2.1 counts against the luxury tax, but that's still money that's going out the door one way or another. So you have to make a decision there. You have to make a decision on Orlando, which is probably like $2.3 million, whether you're going to pay him as just the $500,000 or you're going to continue to pay him the like 1.8 million that he'd make on the rest of the season. But also like you're going to come to a point later on. I checked last night and I think Isaac Jones has been he's suited up for 32 games already and he only gets 50.
Ooh.
So
and that's just worn a uniform. That's not even getting on the court.
No, Jesus. there's I think one game where he got a DMP CD where he was in uniform, maybe 2. But still, that's what you're looking at. You've got to think if you get to the second half of the season and Isaac Jones gets back in the rotation, starts becoming a player, and then all of a sudden you run out of games. He can't play any more games unless you sign him to the regular roster. He can't play in the playoffs if you wanted him to play in the playoffs. 2-way players aren't allowed to play in the playoffs. So you have to sign him to a regular season roster. So if you don't have a roster spot, what the Kings usually like to do, they like to open up a roster spot. Then they like to go out and trade for a player, waive that player, and get a second-round pick and some cash, whatever. And then, go back and sign a player later like they did with Keon Ellis last year, where after the trade deadline, they signed Keon to I think a 3-year contract. And that's something I could see them doing with a guy like Isaac Jones. So it's just one of those days, like on the calendar, it's different than like the December 15th date where, maybe things happen, maybe don't. But we already started to see it yesterday with some of the other teams around the league starting to shuffle their rosters a little bit. And that's why you see it right now. It's because if they're on the roster on January 10th, their money is guaranteed for the rest of the season. And again, you can like keep a guy and then like 3 weeks from now waive him. That's not it. That
doesn't mean they're locked into the roster. The money just gets locked.
It just means that the money for the season is locked in. And so a little complicated, but I definitely think that there could be some movement today.
Sure.
And we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
916-909-1320, 916-909-1320 is the Elk Grove Kia talk line. Don, you're on the Insiders. What's up?
Hammer Kyle.
What's up, TC?
Just popping. Hey, man, listen, I'm fired up right now, Hammer.
Love it.
You know what I mean? We got 3 dogs. We got Keon, Devin, and Keegan. In my opinion, Kyle and Hammer, I'm not making no moves, man, with neither one of those dudes. I know we talking about trade talks and all that. We don't need to mess with nothing, man. We need them 3 dudes. We got 3 defensive specialists on this team that we need to go along with Doug's mentality and everything else. We come together like the calamity, the way they hug each other in the brotherhood, bro. We got something special right now. I'm going to call it right now, Ham and Kyle. This season, the way it's been going is going to be much more special than Bean Team. How special that season was, this season is going to be that much more special, bro, finishing off. I'm going to call it now. That's all I got.
Love the call. Thanks, TC. Appreciate you.
And to clarify, he said Devin, not Kevin.
Okay, I was kind of wondering.
Yeah. So
I heard the same thing as the chat. Yeah.
No, Keegan, Keon, and Devin.
Got it.
Not Kevin.
Got it.
Yeah. So, I get it. I get people who are like, hey, don't make a move. You don't want to mess with stuff. You got things rolling. You don't want to mess with anything. I disagree. Because you're going to get to a point where you cap, where like, playing hard and all that stuff, but you're going to go up against teams that have players that you can't match up against. Just straight up. And then what do you do?
Yeah. Last night, that was one of the things, like if I'm nitpicking something from last night, that was is your starters had all played 45 plus minutes. And then you go look down the bench and it's Trey Lyles, 23 minutes, Kevin Huerter, 15 minutes, Devin Carter, 10. And that's just, I get in a double overtime game, your starters are just going to naturally play a ton of minutes because you have 5 minutes. You're not going to try and get rotation guys in.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you look down, do you feel great? Like, okay, Trey Lyles, I think is a rotation player. I feel good about Trey Lyles. He wasn't perfect last night, but he was okay. But like Kevin Huerter on a night in, night out basis, that's your 7th guy? Or Devin Carter? Your 7th guy?
It's tough, man. Like I said like benchless in Seattle last night is one of my 6 quick thoughts, and people jumped on me. Oh, come on!
Get back into those.
They did the reason why the bench only scored 15 was because Doug Christie relied so heavily on his starters. He relied so heavily on his starters because
other way around.
Nobody said play me all of the minutes.
Right.
Nobody said that.
Right.
Nobody raised their hand and said play me all the minutes.
Right.
And so Doug went with the group that he thought was going to get him the win. Yeah. And that's it.
And I know you bring De'Aaron Fox into the mix. Keon probably goes back to the bench. And now Trey Lyles is your 7th guy and Kevin Huerter's your 8th. But still, the way they match up with teams defensively, I just don't. In a 7-game series for a regular season, it's probably fine. But I think the goals and aspirations of this team go well beyond just playing into late April.
Yeah.
I think they want to win some series.
Well, no, I mean, if you're going to win some series, you need some taller dudes.
I would agree. That continues to be a thing. All right. Doug Christie's decision. We got to talk about this because I think this is going to be one of the talking points throughout the rest of the year as we navigate whatever this Kings season winds up being. We're going to talk about this a ton. He's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insiders. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. Also, the handoff with one of Dealer or Casey. I don't know which one's coming in today. That's coming up in about 20 minutes right here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. We're clear.
Clear. Yep. going on, everybody? Oh, Derek White, illness, not president, shoot around today. It's only Tuesday. He's got until Friday. Oh, the Jets have requested to interview Darren Rizzi for their head coaching job, per source. They interviewed Rex Ryan this morning. There was this hilarious thing that I just read. Let's see. That the Cowboys have not responded to the Bears' request to interview Mike McCarthy. I don't know. That just seems funny to me. It seems funny that the Bears want Mike McCarthy because, of course, they would. And it's funny that the Cowboys can't figure out how to manage this situation, whether they're going to let him go interview or not. Yeah, Norm, I think, again, like, I like the idea of trading for Jonas Valanciunas. Just because, again, I think Alex Len is a perfectly nice dude, but I don't think he's really been able to hold his own over the last couple of, I don't know, he hasn't been great this season. I think he has been a valuable member the last couple of years, but the one downfall is Valanciunas signed a 3-year, $30 million deal, so you'd be taking on the final 2 years of his contract. And then it depends on what you're giving up. Like, is a Trey Lyles for Jonas Valanciunas the best use of your resources? And I don't know, because that's a tough one, because Trey does bring something different. His ability to, be your small ball center and shoot threes is big, and Valanciunas just doesn't do that. But Valanciunas has the size and the toughness that you kind of need. I don't know. I'm a little leery on it because I don't think you can play Valanciunas and Sabonis next to each other, like you can with Lyles and Sabonis. And so, again, are you going to pay $10 million a year for 12 minutes a game? Because that's, Sabonis is playing 36 minutes. Now, if you have injuries and stuff, sure. But I also think that, it would be difficult to see any sort of situation where Valanciunas even got up to like 18 minutes per game with the Kings. But him and Sabonis are close. They are friends. They play together in the Lithuanian national team. Yes, Aldrin J. This is probably the most disappointing Man U season ever. They are not good. Like when we have to discuss whether they could possibly get relegated or not, that's not a good thing. Yeah.
What?
Oh, they could get relegated.
Manchester United?
Yeah, I mean they haven't been good.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, they're 13th on the table.
So I know it was
the table is the standings for people who don't know.
Right. I don't follow the Premier League really at all. I just follow enough people on Twitter who tweet enough.
Yeah.
And I know that Manchester United for a long time was dominant and really, really good. And I knew it wasn't going great from things you've said and people in the chatty house and stuff people on Twitter said. I did not realize it was like relegation bad.
Oh, it's bad. I mean, they had lost, I think, 3 Premier League games in a row at home, which does not happen. Like,
oh my
God. They've been rough, and they've got all kinds of issues. Yeah, they've Harry Maguire, like, they just decided to pick up another year of Harry Maguire, who's just absolute trash. He fools people for like 2 weeks, and then, like, I just wonder if his parents are in the stands cheering every time he kicks a ball far. That's all Harry Maguire does, kick the ball far. Like, what are we doing?
Drew Down said, well, I guess I don't have to, because if you're on here, you see. It is America. That's why we're calling it soccer.
That's right. Not the football.
I hope my mother knows that one thing.
Because
she's English.
Oh.
And anytime I start to call it soccer, I get smacked upside the head. That's not true.
Yeah.
But I definitely get corrected. Are you, though?
Are you? Yeah.
Oh, damn. That's a tough scene for Harry Maguire.
Yeah. Thomas, thoughts on going after Pirtle? Jakob Pirtle, like.
Oh, hey, hang on.
Okay.
Am I the only one around here who gives a damn about the rules?
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
Unreal.
My bad.
Okay, we're back. Hey, we're live. We're on the air. That's James and Kyle with a handoff with one of D'Lo or Casey coming up here in about 10 minutes. We're talking a ton about the Kings after their 5th consecutive win. They beat the Miami Heat last night, 123-118 in a double overtime thriller at Golden One Center. Look, man, we can dive further into this over the next week or so.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings don't play again until Friday, so we can dive into this through the rest of the week, I guess. I do not envy the decision Doug Christie has to make once De'Aaron Fox comes back.
No. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Is it?
I think it is. Like, you put Keon Ellis back on the bench and you play him as many minutes as you can. And you love what he brings, and you now have a 6th starter.
Okay. And I get moving him back to the bench is the easy call and all that jazz. But you said you play him as many minutes as you can. That's what I don't want to have to deal with. Because I don't know where those minutes come from.
I think you had to do it with Malik Monk for the last 3 years. So you got to figure out how to do it with Keon Ellis. Like, that's it. Like, it's not easy to manage minutes at the NBA level, especially when it's a guard, when you already have a couple of guards that are major minute guards. But, like, I just, you have to figure it out. Like, Keon Ellis needs to be on the court a lot. And again, I don't know what a lot means. It's going to mean something different to Doug or to a fan or to someone else, but like, at a minimum 26 to 28 minutes, that kind of feels like where he needs to be. But I still think it's off the bench. I think it's DeMar DeRozan is still starting at the small forward until you get somebody who can play the small forward in a different way than DeMar DeRozan can. And I mean, there's value in DeMar, but again, if you had Cam Johnson and now you have a real decision between, like, do I play Cam Johnson or DeMar DeRozan at the starting small forward spot or
Malik Monk?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like,
do you put DeMar at the 2, Malik back on the bench, Cam Johnson at the 3, not Cam Johnson over Malik Monk?
Oh, yeah. Now I get what you're saying. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's always going to be like some sort of conversation, but I also think, hey, you throw Cam Johnson in and he's now your 7th best player, your 8th best player, and you keep rolling.
Okay.
And people are like, oh, you gave up way too much for that player in your rotation. It's like, well, not really. Like, I mean, if you're only really playing 7 or 8 guys, those players have to have tremendous amount of value. They've got to be good players, and you've got to spend money to go get them.
Yeah.
Spend money, spend draft capital, spend whatever it takes to go get them. So, yeah.
The decision I'm more leaning toward, though, because I think you're right. I think it's a proverbial layup to put Keon back on the bench. You roll with the starting 5 of Fox, Monk, DeRozan, Murray, and Sabonis. What about closing games? Because to me, and I said this last night on the internet during the game, and then DeMar DeRozan goes 4 for 4 in double overtime and closes the game, scores the final 9 points, and puts the Heat away.
Yeah.
But I said when De'Aaron Fox gets back, I think I'd want Keon in the closing lineup over DeRozan. Because you needed him last night, no doubt, without question. No De'Aaron, you need him on the floor. But with De'Aaron on the court with Malik Monk, DeRozan starts to get a little bit redundant. And when you watch what Keon Ellis is doing specifically defensively, because in clutch games, you got to get stops, man.
Oh, no.
I know you need to score the ball. Scoring the ball, you got to score too.
But we've seen this is how they've won the last couple of close games.
Correct.
The 15-0 run.
That's why it even occurred to me last night. Because I'm watching them do this, and it's like, dude, they're doing this. Like, Keon is catalyzing a lot. Keon hit 2 huge threes, and that would be the initial issue with Keon closing games is, well, and it's why we didn't talk about it before the year, because man, he can be a little bit of a liability offensively. You don't want to be playing 4-on-5, and that just can't happen. So, you take the defensive downgrade with DeMar and for the offensive upgrade. But if he's going to be a reliable 3-point shooter, he's going to be a pull-up 3-point shooter like he was last night. Now you feel way differently about what Keon Ellis can do closing games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's going to be, like, this is where coaching comes in, and you're going to have an offense-defense mentality. There's going to be certain nights where you feel like you need more offense, certain nights where you need more defense. There's going to be nights where you can switch them out from one possession to the next. As far as like major possessions, you're going to get Keon out there. Then on the defensive side, you'll bring DeMar back in on the offensive side. But I also, like, if you're up 6 and your offense is not rolling, maybe you do rely on Keon. If you're down 6 and you need more scoring, maybe you rely on DeMar. And I think it's going to be, and it could be neither one of those guys. It could be like Keegan that comes off the court. Like, we don't know. It could be, if someone's in foul trouble. Like, again, I think the opportunity here for Keon to step in and start the last 4 games, it's a blessing. It's not a curse. It's just getting him ramped up because he's now going to play more minutes on a consistent basis. And a lot of times you almost wish that you had like a G League that you could go send a guy down to so he could get ramped up, which teams don't use the G League that way, but they should. But, if all of a sudden the guy's going to be playing major minutes where he wasn't before, this is a moment where it's like, okay, look, he's young. He can get out there. He can play. And he's your 6th starter when you're missing somebody. And it almost doesn't matter who you're missing at this point. I mean, I guess if Domas is missing, you're probably starting Trey Lyles. But I think that there is an ability for this team to play small a lot more than they have in the past. And again, that's why I think there's a tremendous amount of value in a guy like Trey Lyles. And the small ball center where you can just run up and down the court. Now, I still think that they need more length and athleticism. I think they need a shot blocker. I mean, there are plenty of things they need, but again, we're not to that point where you don't mess with the chemistry of the team by making a trade just because they've won 5 in a row. I mean, this team lost 6 in a row last week. I mean, like,
the wheels fell off not that long ago.
No, it was just like 2 weeks ago that
it was last year, man,
that you let a coach go. Exactly. It's way back last year.
Let me I don't want to say backtrack, but clarify. Having more good players is not a bad thing. I say I don't envy Doug because, like, man, that's tough.
Yeah.
You got to go to DeMar DeRozan potentially and go, hey, you're not going to close games anymore. Or there are going to be some nights where you don't close games. Like, that's tough. That's a tough conversation to have. Now, it's one you have to have.
Yeah.
That's one of the key responsibilities of a head coach is making those changes and managing egos. Or you got to go to Keegan Murray and go, hey, Keegan, you know what? Hey, sometimes you're not going to close games. But hey, stay confident.
You just have to play the field.
That's so tough.
You got to play it by feel, though. You got to, like, every game is different. You're like, okay, look, Tyler Hero's tearing us up. Keon, I need you out there. Like, I need you out there as much as possible. And the second he checks in the game, you're checking in the game. And I think Keon is getting to a point where you can almost rely on him to go out there and just bring whatever energy and whatever, defensive, feel that you need for a game. But it's not always going to be perfect. And, Keon Ellis is part of the group that trailed by 17 last night.
Yeah.
And we can't just act like everyone is like, I know everyone were calling out Alex Len for being a -11 in the previous game. It's like Alex Len was a -11 because you debuted a rookie or rookie second game and everything looked funky for like 4 minutes, and then he didn't get back in the game in the second half when everybody else fixed their plus minus.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, it's just circumstantial. Sometimes it's a player's fault, sometimes it's not. Even again, Trey Lyles didn't have a great game against it was against Golden State, but he ran like a plus 30 or plus 28. I mean, that's how it works sometimes. That's player impacts. You don't always want to rely on something like plus minus and just say, oh, it's the end all be all. But you can see a player's impact on a court and how, working with these two players, that player like just somehow dominates and makes a ton of sense.
We have news.
Uh-oh.
ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Sacramento Kings are waiving center Orlando Robinson. Veteran forwards Jay Crowder and Doug McDermott will have their contracts guaranteed for the remainder of the season. This move also opens up a roster spot for the Kings. So there you go. What we just talked about, the roster moves the Kings had to make by today. They have made them, or I guess made one, by waiving Orlando Robinson.
Yeah. That's it's tough, but yeah. That it's kind of what we expected.
Yeah. So Jay Crowder and Doug McDermott, their money is guaranteed for the rest of the year now. Well, Jay Crowder's already guaranteed, right?
Yeah, his is already guaranteed.
Okay. Doug McDermott, though,
at least
guaranteed
that's
for the rest of the year. And now the Kings have a little roster flexibility with that open spot.
Yeah, that's at least what most like things that I've read about his contract. He got a rest of the season contract.
Okay. Kenny Caraway is here for the handoff. Kenny Caraway, D'Lo, and KC. Going to be a fun start to the show today.
Oh man, it's going to be good times.
Young Zell, can't wait.
Come on, good times. 2 verses, man.
We're 2 verses.
Yeah,
today.
I'm saying it right now,
one
man.
per
2
overtime.
verses.
Nice.
You know what I mean? That was win of the year. Without question. The Grizzlies one was really good. The Philly one was really good. I mean, the Philly one was fire. 15-0 run to end the game. But last night was crazy. Salute to the Golden One Center crowd. I mean, it was movie status in the G1C last night. What a night. What a night.
Yeah, man. That was they went down. We talked about this earlier, but man, they go down 17 with 8 minutes to go on the second night of a back-to-back. And this wasn't even, for me watching, it wasn't even like, oh God, classic Kangs. It wasn't, in fact, hang on. I think I've got
Kangs.
It wasn't that. But it was just, oh, this is a team on the second night of a back-to-back, and they got sloppy here, and they've gone down 17. This game's over.
No, I was watching the game with my homie. Don't want to get nobody in trouble, but I was watching the game with my homeboy, and we was just both talking about like DeMar in that fourth quarter and in the first overtime.
3 for 10
in that fourth quarter. It's like he just ain't got it. Like them legs. What is it? 36? It was like
35.
back. And he just didn't have it. It felt like at that time. And then he ducked down deep in that second overtime. 9 points in that second overtime. Big time shot after big time shot. And they all just kind of found a way. You know what I mean? Because I agree with you guys. They didn't look sharp for most of that game. That game was played at a Miami Heat pace for most of that game. And they just found a way to keep chipping away, man. Keegan Murray on the boards. Keon Ellis was fantastic. Keon Ellis was fantastic,
really good
in that game. And then my boy Malik Monk, he's a leader. Yeah. He's a leader. Like Malik is that dude.
Yeah, figuring out ways to have an impact without when you don't have your shot. What do you go? 8 for 25 last night?
I think him and DeMar were. I think he was 7 for 24, 7 for 25, and DeMar was like 8 for 24.
I mean, woof.
Yeah,
he finished.
Malik 8 for 25. Yeah, and DeMar 12 for 26.
12 for 26. Yeah, he finished 12.
And that's right. He hit a bunch of shots late.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like in that second overtime, he just went crazy. But coming into that, it was like the legs ain't there or whatever. He's just not making shots tonight or something like that.
That's why you asked if it was the win of the year. That's why it's a hard yes for me, because they were awesome defensively. They figured out a way down. We know this team can score, but hey, they didn't. DeMar DeRozan and Malik Monk didn't have it shooting the ball last night.
No.
And they still figured out a way to scratch and claw and go get a win. And I don't know that you can pick, like, if you were going, hey, who's the game MVP? The reason that's win of the year is because it's so hard to pick a game MVP.
Yeah. And we didn't even talk about DeMontis Sabonis. Was it 21, 17, and 10?
21, 18, and 11. 3 blocks, a steal. 2 for 2 from 3.
On that 3-pointer he hit in the second overtime or first overtime, I think it was. That was crazy.
I want to run this by you because I respect your basketball opinion.
Thank you.
Sometimes. No. I don't want to take. You mentioned Domas, and that's what brought this up for me. I don't want to take away from what Domas did defensively. I thought he was awesome defensively last night. Really, both ends of the floor. He was very, very good. Bam Adebayo's on fraud watch for me.
I heard you talking about that earlier. I won't say that. I don't think Bam is like right now on this team. They need him to be like number 1 or number 2. I don't think he's in 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's yes.
But if he's maybe in some cases a 2, but if he's like a 3 and he's allowed to kind of pick and choose, because what do you have last night? Like 19 shot attempts?
Stand by. I got the box score in front of me. Yeah, 6 of 19, 1 of 5 from 3.
Yeah, you probably want him around like 13 shot attempts and like work on the boards and do some scrappy stuff. So, but right now because of Jimmy and the way the team is built, like he's got to take on more of an offensive load.
Yeah,
and he's just not. That's not his game, in my opinion. And so I hear you. I wouldn't call. I think he's just kind of miscast a little bit right now.
Okay, all right, that's fair. That's fine. He's still on my list. Fraud watch. He's not a full-blown fraud
watch. There you go. Just a watch. Like I got my eye on this situation.
Heisman watch list.
Yeah. Who is a fraud?
Jaren Jackson. Full-blown fraud. Get that guy out of my face. You're 7 feet tall, and you average the same amount of rebounds as you do 3-point attempts.
He's so wild. I don't like watching him play.
His jump shot stinks.
Yeah.
It's like he like pushes it. The
numbers are there. He's effective. He's actually really good as a rim protector.
That fraud.
But I just don't like watching him play. It's just wild and sloppy.
If anyone's not in on the bit, is a really good NBA player.
Yeah.
Like if you're in the NBA, you're awesome at basketball. Just being dramatic
I wonder if there's anybody in the NBA that's not that good.
Nobody. 0 people, bro.
Oh,
0 people are not.
There's 1 or 2 that I think
really
are
good at basketball.
And I'm always defending these players.
Yeah.
I think I might be able to find 1 or 2. It's like you're not that good. You're just kind of tall.
What do you mean not that good?
Like not really skilled.
What's our guy who was in Portland last year? Moses Brown.
I
don't know who Moses Brown is.
Oh.
Portland.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, you haven't been fouled by him before. Everyone else does.
I don't think to be fair, I don't think there's more than 5 players in the league that are not.
What do you
really
define
good.
by not as good?
Like just not skilled. Like you can't hit a jump shot.
But they would be. But if they went down to, do we have a gym sponsorship here?
No, we need one because they're taller than everybody. You know what I mean? Like if they were the same height as us and they couldn't shoot and couldn't dribble 2 dribbles.
Oh, so this is the James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo take. Giannis is only good because he's tall.
Yeah, but Giannis is really good though. Like Giannis can make a move. He can finish.
Sure.
He can dribble.
Mm-hmm.
So James was wrong about that one.
If everybody I'm sorry, James, I'm just keep cutting you off. If
everybody says Rudy Gobert,
it's okay. I was out here tweeting.
Rudy Gobert might not be that good.
What do you?
Rudy Gobert
4-time defensive player of the year.
He might
Hall of Famer,
probably Hall of Famer, likely Hall of Famer.
How tall are you? Like 6 foot, 6'1"?
6 foot.
So
that's what the internet says.
That's what the internet says.
So if everybody was your height at like 6'4", if everybody was your height, would you be in the NBA?
Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. So a lot of the times, like when I look at the NBA, I'm like, man, this is so difficult. Like me being 6 foot, maybe 5'11", it's like, man, it's so difficult to like get a shot off or whatever. I talk about all the time. One of the times I was at my homeboy's house and Trevor Ariza was over there watching the game. We were watching a finals game at his house. And he
tells you what neighborhood Kenny lives in.
I come in the house and he goes, this is my man, Kenny, Trevor, this is Kenny or whatever. And Trevor gets up off the couch and stand up to shake my hand. And the only thing I think about is like, how would I ever play against this guy? Like, how would I ever get a shot off against this guy?
You have no chance.
He's just as fast as I am. And he's 8 feet, it feels like.
Yeah, so, 6'8".
So it's like, that's like the difficult. But I think about it and I think about like, oh man, it's so hard to play. They're all playing guys that are the same height, so it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult.
Like, NBA is not that hard.
James Harden isn't Kenny Caraway at 5'11". He's 6'5", going up against another guy that's maybe
James Harden is a hoss, dude.
Yeah, 6'5", like 260.
Surprisingly,
even Steph. Like Steph is 6'3".
Yeah, Steph is the tallest guy in most rooms he walks in.
Right.
Yeah, even De'Aaron, like we saw Lawrence Butler, and I'm like, oh, Lawrence Butler's tall. He's got to be like 6'4".
Yeah.
And but you lose that perspective when you're around NBA players all the time. All of them are super tall. And then Taco Fall walks in, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Zach Edey's huge.
Dude, he is.
When I seen him on Friday, I was like, that dude, I don't know.
When you look, because you guys been to a bunch of NBA games, like when you've been to enough of it, doesn't like they're obviously tall people, but it doesn't like nothing clicks in your brain.
Right.
Wemby and Zach Edey both.
Oh yeah, Wemby. Yeah.
Were like jarringly tall.
Well, that and when you're holding a mic up like this, and you're like, "Wow, this is."
You feel like a kid, like interviewing your dad.
Yeah,
man,
crazy.
What do you guys got coming up on D-Lo?
Kings, Tristan Craig, Jason Jones, but Kings.
Jason Jones got to be fired up.
Oh yeah,
his Kings.
Oh yeah, those are his boys.
Yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, no, we have a lot of fun today. Young Zell, for sure. Not on the show, but to start the show.
It's a two verse day for a 2 overtime win.
Yeah.
Plenty more Kings coming up with D-Lo and KC right here on ESPN 1320. He's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We're the Insiders. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. We're back with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Yeah, I don't know why that was difficult.
There it is.
Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Until then, drink water and be nice, people.